you should request like consent of trees if you're going to go to that extent of saying you should request consent of animals. Because do you not think the trees feel it when we take from them the same way, you know, when we take from animals without asking consent, essentially? They're all conscious beings, right?
Okay, how important is consent to you?
It depends in what context.
Like, let's say somebody wants to take you back to their house.
Yeah, oh, in that context.
Yeah.
Oh, very important. Like,
very important.
The most important part of like sexual relationships, right?
Okay. Yeah, I agree. No, I agree also. Yeah. So consent is very important. Okay. Okay, and let's just make it a situation where you're not necessarily directly involved, but rather there's a person who wants to take another person back to their home. Okay. So let's just call person A wants to take person B back to their home.
Yeah.
And would you say they need consent to do that?
Of course.
Okay, and I'm gonna throw a bit of hypotheticals out there to see to get your moral ground, to try to test your moral ground. Okay, what if this person is passed out and can't remember? Do you think consent still matters?
Well, even more so.
Okay. What if this person is intellectually challenged or not intelligent enough that they could possibly express consent or understand the concept of consent?
It's the same concept because their inhibitions are not the same, so they need, like, even more so, they're vulnerable, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's people who like got learning disabilities, things like that. Yeah, they're even more vulnerable, so it's our job as society to take care of those people in situations, not to patronize them, of course.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, what if this person looked different, had a different skin color, maybe a different hair type, maybe no hair at all, or well, hair all over their body? Does consent still matter?
Of course.
Okay, so it doesn't change anything.
No.
What if let's say the person that wants to take the other person back to their home really wants to do it?
As in they both want to?
No. Just the person that wants to take them back to their home. They're like, you know, I really want to take this person back to my home.
And that person's like drunk.
Doesn't matter. The question is, consent would still matter in this choice?
Yeah.
So them wanting it more doesn't really change?
Of course not.
Okay.
It's not about their wants and desires. It's about, like, it has to be mutual.
I like that. Okay. What if it benefits them or gives them pleasure? Let's say either way. Let's say the person who wants to take the other person back to their home thinks that it will give them pleasure, but also thinks that it will give the other person pleasure.
But it's not their choice.
It's not their choice, so consent still matters.
Of course.
Okay, I like that. What if everybody's been doing it? It's normal in society.
I mean, you've probably heard, if everybody's jumping off a bridge, are you going to do that? No.
So it doesn't change it?
No, of course not.
Okay, what if it were legal to do so? Does legality change it?
No.
Okay, and what if it's a tradition to do so? Everybody does it as a form of tradition. Does it matter?
No. It's still, you still need to get consent.
Okay, so just to reiterate, before my final question, it doesn't matter how they look like, it doesn't matter what state they're in, it doesn't matter whether they can understand what's happening or not, whether we want to do it, whether it benefits us, or if a lot of people have been doing it for a long time, consent still matters,
of course, right? Yeah.
Okay, so my next question, and I'm not trying to catch up with this one, I used to participate in it too. What do you think about the animals that we force into slaughterhouses for us? Do you think consent should matter there?
I've had this like thought myself because I was vegetarian for 2 years. Well, I was pescatarian. But I mean, yeah. So that used to be kind of my thought process in terms of like, it's not fair on the animals, like the way that they're treated. But yeah, and then somebody threw a different argument at me and they were like, well, do you get the consent from trees? They're sentient beings as well. And you should request like consent of trees if you're going to go to that extent of saying you should request consent of animals. Because do you not think the trees feel it when we take from them the same way, you know, when we take from animals without asking consent, essentially? Yeah. They're all conscious beings, right?
Well, trees are not conscious. They're not sentient.
I think they are.
I mean, you can think, but the emerging science says that consciousness is an emerging property of brains and nervous systems, and trees have none of that. No plants have that.
But in that context, yes. But in the sense of like that they, you know, that they're alive.
They are alive, yes. In that sense, yes.
Yeah, and that they feel the same way. You know, I'm sure you've heard.
But they don't have feelings or emotions because they don't have a central nervous system again.
I think it's different. You know, have you heard of the mycelium? Like the network of roots beneath the ground. So like they're very similar to humans in the sense that you'll have like a parent tree and you have like a child tree. So what the parent tree will do is ensure that the child tree gets as much nutrients as it can. Yeah. So in its own sense, that is a form of an emotion, and you have.
It's a form of intelligence. It's not necessarily a form of emotion, is it? It's a form
Yeah.
of intelligence. It's just like AI is very intelligent. It's just like computers are very intelligent. They're extremely complex and very intelligent, and they can do stuff that gets triggered by external stimuli. But in that sense, they don't have free will, right? A tree does not want to be one way or the other. It just reacts to stimuli, or so is the evidence in our current understanding of it. But my question to you is, because I want to bring it back to the animals.
Yeah.
What do you think? We know for a fact that these animals are sentient. We know that they're consciousness. We know they have emotions. They have feelings, right? Do you think it's right to do this to them, to force them into slaughterhouses for something that is essentially optional to us because we can survive and thrive without it?
Okay, next tree. I mean, next tree street.
Yeah, it's a fair argument. I mean, if I was to say no, it would be because, like, oh no, it's not fair, like, because that's correct. But if I would say yes, it's okay, it's because I eat meat and I eat chicken, so my ego is going to say, well, of course it's okay for you to do that.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't. Does that make sense?
I understand what you mean, yeah.
But technically, no, it's not.
Okay, so then my next question is, what is keeping you from not participating in this, right? In this cruelty in this violence towards animals? Seeing as your moral line says that it's wrong to do it, of course you can change your moral line based on your actions, but why would you do that given that you can change your actions based on your moral line, which is the preferable option, right? And plus, morality, does morality really change? Sometimes we just force ourselves into believing something, but we know in our hearts that something is right or wrong, right? Like watching footage from slaughterhouses inherently tells us that it's wrong, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so no matter how much we want to change it, no matter how much we want to say, no, it's okay, we know deep in our heart that it's wrong, right? So then in that sense, if you know it's wrong, what is keeping you from not supporting these industries, not paying for animals to go into these places?
I mean, probably just my own desires, right? What else? If I'm gonna be straight up honest, what else?
Yeah, I
is
appreciate
it?
honesty.
Yeah, because there's no point me saying, oh, it's because of this and this. Like, it's straight up because we like the taste of it, and it's pure desire. Like the same way. But then that's the difference between us as human beings and animals, is that we have desire and intellect.
Yeah.
Whereas animals only have desire. So we should know. In that sense, obviously, your argument would be we should know better than to be like eating them, for example, and putting them through the pain, essentially.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I guess, yeah, like cultural beliefs, the way you're brought up. I mean, like I said, I was vegetarian for 2 years.
Yeah.
Based on this premise, because I was like, it's not fair on the animals, and the way that they're reared is like, you know, and also whatever kind of stress that animal carries, like you eat that, like it is transferable into you. So. But then, I don't know, I kind of got swayed back into just eating it. I'll be completely honest.
Yeah.
But I'm not a huge eater of it. But, like, if somebody said to me, don't ever eat meat again, I'd be okay with it. Like, it wouldn't faze me. But I guess it's more about the concept of the morality side of it, right?
Yeah. Do you know what veganism is?
Yeah.
Can you walk me through it just to be sure that you have the right definition?
So not using anything that essentially, in a sense, like exploits animals. So, like, not even like honey, for example, because that's the bees. Yeah. So just nothing from animals, like even to the point of like oils and shampoos and all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's a very valid definition. I would say it's just that it's not a diet. A lot of people consider it a diet, right? Vegetarianism is a diet. It's a way of life. It's a moral principle more than anything.
Nice.
We're opposing commodification of animals, as you said, exploitation of animals.
Yeah.
Basically, we want animals to be treated just like humans are, right?
Yeah.
Like some people call it a logical extension of human rights, in the sense that allowing animals to have the right to their own life and to their own body. Like, hearing all of this, what would why wouldn't you want to be vegan, given that your morals align with veganism, and you say it's because of culture, you said taste also, but do you think any of these justify the exploitation that these animals go through?
No, of course not. Like, I'm not going to stand here and say that they do. It's just, that's just what it is. It's probably what the majority of people's reason is.
Yeah.
But, like, I can be humble enough to be like, that's not right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because I say it's desire and because it tastes nice, that doesn't mean it's right. Like, in the sense of like the way that they're treated. Like, I follow a certain religion that says it's okay to eat animals. So, as in like, not to take advantage of them and to mistreat them. That's never the case. You're never allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But to eat them is allowed, is permissible. And obviously for me, like I personally, like my religion is what my kind of religion says to me is then important, if that makes sense. So it wouldn't be like, yeah. So on that basis, like I deem it okay. But I completely agree with you that the treatment of animals today in today's generation is very bad, is very immoral. And I get it, like it's the same concept, but you still eat them.
Yeah, but
I don't.
let me put it this way. Like, let's say you grow an animal. Have you had pets, dogs, or something?
No.
Okay, let's say you grow a dog. Do you find dogs cute or a cat or something,
Yeah,
right?
and then somebody ate
You
it.
grow them, and at some point you say, I'll just cut their throat and eat them. Given knowing that you have other options available,
Yeah, it's weird that we do that with they're domesticated animals, right? I mean,
well, all of them are domesticated animals.
yeah.
So, but the question is, do you think it's? I mean, I asked if you think it's fair, and you said it's not fair. But do you think it's something that you would do, like, because right, like if you're faced with a situation where you have to kill the animal yourself, or
No, I wouldn't do it.
you wouldn't do it?
No, and that's the point. This is also why I
Oh,
did
okay,
the vegetarian, because I was like, I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
Maybe I could kill a fish. That's why I was like, okay, I'll eat fish, but an animal, no. Like I cannot hardly even touch a bird.
But
Interrupting Chip here. This whole thing that she said where she could kill a fish but not another animal is the perfect example of speciesism and why it's a form of discrimination based on nothing more but looks. Fish don't seem like they suffer too much when you take them out of water because they don't have any arms or legs to move around and signal you to stop. But they do struggle to breathe, they do suffer, and they do not want to die. If you were to try and asphyxiate a human without arms or legs, probably the movement would be similar. Most fishes are sentient, so leave them alone. They deserve to live free also.
okay, and then let me put it differently. Like, let's say you're next to somebody and they can kill the animal for you. You just have to hand them the knife. Would you hand them the knife, or would you choose the other option?
I mean, if there's absolutely nothing and I'm starving and I'm about to die.
No, there's another option also.
Oh, what's the other option?
The other
Is it
option, right?
falafel?
Yeah, so in that sense, you see, we can extrapolate and go even further and say, you're basically, my point is to get you to understand your involvement in the matter and the fact that you're complicit in this, right? And
Yeah.
animals go into these places because you choose for them to go into these places. So
Yeah.
in that sense, it's no difference between you handing the knife to somebody to cut the throat of an animal or...
100%. When you're
Right.
paying for it.
Yeah,
That's-
exactly. So what would incentivize you to go vegan? What would get you to say, you know what, I don't want to participate in this anymore? Well, what would your next meal saying, starting from now on, I don't want animals to be exploited, abused, or slaughtered on my behalf, given that I can have so many readily available options?
I guess just like thinking about it a bit more deeply,
Yeah,
like reflecting on it after this conversation, because it's been an interesting conversation.
yeah.
So just thinking about it a bit more deeply and thinking twice before I eat meat and like where it's sourced from, and thinking actually like taking a moment just to think about the animals before eating it. And I suppose it's small things like that that make like thought changes, which then leads to behavioral change. So yeah.
Yeah, but then let me get to it even further, because well, that's a good response. It's not. You will understand why it's not a good response, actually.
Okay.
So let me ask you this: if you were to find out that all the meat that you can buy now is, let's say, coming from humans, it's just humans from poor countries, they've been mistreated. No, they haven't even been mistreated. They've been treated very well, but they get slaughtered. They just get. When they become teenagers, they get slaughtered, or when they become adults, they get slaughtered. Would you still buy meat and still approach it the same way, where you say, I'll first think about it, I'll then look into it, and then maybe at some point I'll change? Or will you change instantly?
Change instantly, but for me personally, I know where you're heading, but like for me personally, there is a difference between humans and animals.
Okay, well,
Just personally.
and I like that we arrived at this point, because my next question is, what is it that is the morally significant difference that between an animal and a human that says it's okay to do this to an animal but not to a human?
I can't give you the answer.
Okay, let me put it in a different way. What is it that an animal lacks or an animal doesn't have that if a human also didn't have it, it would make it okay to do it to humans?
Again, I can't give you an answer. Good points to reflect on.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
like, if you can't answer this question, it's because there is nothing.
Yeah.
There is no difference, right? We're both sentient. We both have emotions. We both feel pain. We both feel happiness and sadness. And if you reflect on why is it bad to harm a human being, it's for the same reason, because they would feel bad about it, right? The same reason it's bad to harm an animal.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I'll just give you more resources to look into. And do you have more questions? Well, can I ask what your religion is if you feel safe to answer?
It's okay. I'm a Muslim.
Okay. And I know about Muslims that you have I don't know a lot about all religions. I know about Muslims that you have this thing where you say that you need to respect animals, right? Do you think, given that you have options where you don't have to slaughter animals, do you think you're respecting them when you choose to slaughter them?
I mean, I can't speak for all Muslims. There's
Yeah.
2 billion of us on the planet. But I mean, it depends how you do it, I suppose. That would be the argument. Like, I get your point that there's no answer to these
Yeah.
questions. Like, as in, there's no excuse, there's no explanation,
Exactly.
no justification, right?
Yeah.
But everybody has a different view of how perspective of the world and how they live. That's just life. So there must be people who do slaughter them what they would consider an ethical way, what they would consider moral and ethical. But understandably, as a vegan, you're not going to see it that way, which is just a different way to view the world.
It's not that I don't see it that way. Just to clarify, it's not that it's because you almost make it seem as if it's a personal choice, right?
No, I'm just as in, I just think that in any topic, in anything in life, there's always going to be multiple perspectives to how to see it.
That's true, but the difference is that when there's victims involved, shouldn't we consider the perspective of the victim?
Yeah, that's
Right.
a good point.
Right, because
Yeah.
that's the point of this. Like, okay, in other situations where there's maybe not victims, you can say that's okay. It's your choice. You can find your own morality around. You can navigate. You can choose religion. You can choose whatever cultural beliefs you have and make a decision based on that. But when there's victims, I feel like all of this falls short, and we first need to think about the victims,
Yeah.
and then our choices, shouldn't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Thank you very
let me
much for
give
the
you
conversation.
Let me give you a card just before you go.
Sure.
What's your name, by the way?
Selena.
Selena. I'm Chip. Nice to meet
Nice to
you, Selena.
meet you.
So over here, just real quick, if you scan this,
Yeah.
go on this website and type in this code.
Cool.
There's a thing called the most important speech you'll ever hear.
I'm going to challenge your belief systems today, so certain parts of the speech will be intense.
It just teaches you about the practices in animal agriculture, like eggs, dairy, all of this, just to find out what you're paying for. There's nothing wrong with getting informed. And if you choose that you still want to participate, I can't police you any further.
I don't have dairy, by the way.
Yeah, but if you don't want to participate in any of it,
Yeah.
there's Challenge 22. They hook you up with a nutritionist, send you vegan recipes. There's also a group called Vegan Muslims on Facebook. So if you have particular questions about Muslims and vegans,
That's cool.
there's a lot, all of that. And going forward, I just want you to know that you can choose, of course, your own path going forward. Just be aware that when you choose an animal product, an animal will go to a slaughterhouse on your behalf. And if you don't want that to happen, at least choose a plant-based diet until you decide whether you want to go vegan or not. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was
Nice to
great
meet you,
talking
Celine, and
You too.
have a good day.
Take care.
Bye.